Board of Water Commissioners call to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Presentation of bills and accounts.
Move we accept the bills and accounts as presented.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Cooper Lake improvements.
Okay, Dennis came to the meeting, we had a follow-up meeting with Schnabel right after the last board meeting. To see if we could kind of whittle down that $10.8 million price tag we got. And I think Dennis, you'd agree that there's really no meaningful way to cut that cost.
10.8? Not even.
8.8.
8.8.
Oh, yeah, I thought we had interest already, go ahead.
No, we were sitting there and we were
Keep
talking.
changing every time we get to
Very
it.
rapidly.
Now, we were talking 8.8.
8.8.
But that didn't include something, it include
It's
some
only
engineering or
60%.
something.
It doesn't include construction management.
Okay,
And so we have 800,000 for the design, so we have 8.8 for construction, we don't have a cost yet for construction management. But the goal was.
there was another cost they were supposed to give us too.
Design during construction, it's just, to me it's the same, but to them it's different. Anyway, the upshot is that, if we don't, we could save some money, probably a couple $100,000 by not raising the well house to the maximum, but in the face of 8.8, that seems meaningless.
No, it'd be,
It'd be
penny-wise a dollar.
Exactly, exactly. So, the mayor wasn't able to make that meeting, but I filled him in on it, because we have a meeting about every once a month, I guess. He said, we just have to get money from someplace else. You know, we've got to go back, we've got to bang on the legislature, and whatever we got to do, we've got to figure this out. But that's a 20% rate increase.
Well, it's, the state is pushing us to do this, we don't have a choice.
Correct.
And then, we're gonna have to say, you've gotta find some money for us.
Right. We had a meeting about the Ashokan connection, that's doing really well. It's gonna be a lot of back and forth because of the bureaucracy, but we will be able to do that. Matt's done a quick kind of back of the envelope sort of calculation, because, could we shut the town of Ulster off during this period when we might need water? It really is cheaper to do the Ashokan connection. Now, I mean, that's before I know what the Ashokan connection is going to cost, the actual connection. I mean, it shouldn't be much, but we're going to maybe have to do a jack and bore under 28, but it's something we need to do anyway. And Tom's getting those costs together, so we actually have, so we really need to have an order of magnitude sort of idea of what these things are gonna cost, because I don't want detailed design necessarily, but, is a jack and bore gonna cost 30,000, 20,000? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, jack and bore?
Oh, Jack and Bourne?
Well, I mean, the state isn't gonna let you trench across Route 28. So the Ashokan's on this side, we're on that side. The last time, so you dig a hole on either side and then you jack under, use a drilling technique to go under. It's done all the time. We used to put our temporary pipes through the culvert. Now when you're driving up 28, you don't see this, but there's actually a crack on top of 28, on top of the culvert, and the culvert is actually crushed. So I don't think we can get our pipes in there, and I don't think DOT is gonna say, okay, we'll just redo that culvert for you. So we probably need to do this anyway. So Tom's getting all that together, I don't have those costs yet, but we've gotten some feedback from the DEP from some of our preliminary submittals, and
maybe somebody should complain to DOT that the culvert's cracked and they need to replace it. And at some point in time, we'll design it so that we can put our pipe through it.
right. Well, we could even pay the extra betterment charge.
Refresh my memory, when does the state say we have to finish the Cooper Lake improvements?
They've never said.
But they've told us we have to do it.
Correct. See, we've given them a schedule. One of the things we hadn't given them was a schedule. We gave them, so
And they wanted the schedule.
They wanted the schedule, and we gave them the schedule. We've never gotten any feedback or acceptance on that schedule. However, if we deviate too much from that schedule, we will.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, they'll be calling us up and writing us
Right.
letters. I mean, the law that changed really required us to do an evaluation, hire an engineer to do an evaluation, and that evaluation obviously identified deficiencies.
Right.
And so when we sent the evaluation in, it identified the deficiencies, and they kind of wrote back and said, okay, we need a schedule for you to repair, correct the deficiencies.
The schedule was a requirement in the engineering assessment, and we conveniently left it off,
Right.
accidentally on purpose, because we wanted to buy a little time, and we wanted to see if they're at, when they got to the point where when were they actually gonna look at it to say, hey, by the way, you forgot the schedule. And they did that. Took a while, but they did.
Is our state representative and state senator any help in trying to find resources for this?
I don't really know how to answer that question. I think they'd like to be.
They understand we're looking at a 20% rate increase.
Assemblyman Cahill certainly does. George
Well, we met with
Amador
them.
should.
How long ago was it that we actually met?
Over a year. We should repeat
need to
that visit.
Revisit them, right.
Right, and
My thing is, I don't know, in terms of getting funding, I'm not sure either of our representatives are in a position to get that for us. I don't know.
well, Cahill should be in a better shape
Yeah.
than Amador, since Amador is a Republican and they have
Right, they've
lost.
They lost.
I mean,
They've
when he
lost.
was, when
I
the
agree.
Senate was controlled by Republicans and he was a Republican senator,
Right.
you think he had some ability, but now that he's a Republican and the
But
Senate's
so-
controlled by
Our
Democrats.
money comes out of either the Environmental Conservation Committee of the Assembly and Senate or the Health Committee of the Assembly. Mr. Cahill is on both in the Assembly. He's also the head of the Insurance Committee, which, I mean, they all do horse trading. So he's in a position to help people who need help through the Insurance Committee.
Well, I think
So I think
a
that's good.
lunch with Kevin is important.
There you go.
I mean, really, to say how important this is. And, you know, your constituents are facing a huge rate increase.
Right.
And the only source of money is these committees. It should be easier now that everything's controlled by the Democrats.
I agree.
And, you know, so I think a lunch meeting with them is,
Right, and I think it needs to come from not, I mean, I can certainly be there to fill in the blanks, but it's more impactful for him if it comes from you guys.
I'll be glad to be
So,
part of
I
it.
mean, I think that was true the last time we
Yeah.
worked with, the mayor came with us and that was helpful.
And the mayor should be along,
Right.
and
Right.
it should be,
Yeah.
you know.
They never knew back then that it was gonna be a 20% rate increase. We
Probably
didn't have
not.
that calculated.
We didn't know.
I don't think we had that specific,
I don't think
we knew
had
that
for
it was
long.
gonna be
I
a
don't think
substantial.
so.
Yeah,
rate
we thought it was
increase.
gonna be
Right.
expensive, but we didn't
We
know.
didn't know.
Isn't the
I
governor
mean,
coming out with some kind of new regulations that we would
Yes,
invest in the water?
yes, but there's no money for dams. They're specifically
Can't be used
excluded
for that.
for all that stuff. Now, we did discuss this at the meeting. We could, there's a part of the dam rehab, like the intake, that is water supply related, and we could get funding for that.
Almost $5 million.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, out of the 8.8, I think it was 5 point something, was actually water infrastructure, the new well house and all the
Right.
piping and stuff. And theoretically, we could apply to, you know, state health department
Right.
through.
That will increase our overall costs a little bit incrementally, because engineering was done on the premise that we were not gonna fund it through the EFC, the state, and that means you have to meet Davis-Bacon, minority women, business, all that,
Okay.
and that increased your costs. But that's just for the design. When it comes to the construction, we could very well say, hey, when you're doing these contracts, separate them. Put water over here and leave this over here, do separate contracts, and let's run that
So
through
we
the
could
EFC.
get 5 million from that.
You might.
But that's only a loan. It's only a loan,
Yeah, but it
but
would,
it's a,
But the rate's pretty favorable, it's subsidized, it's a lot better than going out on the open market and paying 4%. You might pay 2%.
so then the rest of it, we would hopefully get some financing from the state. You know, if we can, you know, say, listen, we can go here for 5 million, we need,
If you can bundle it and package it, absolutely.
okay. So that way, we would have a better chance it wouldn't sound as daunting to a state representative that
Exactly.
we need $10 million, we,
Right, we need 4 million
$4 million,
from
which,
you and 3 from you.
no, but it sounds like it's more doable.
It's packaging.
Right,
You can break it up into smaller pieces, they don't choke.
so I think we have to think along
Okay.
those lines to get this done. And we should meet with Kevin and the mayor.
Right, and I need to talk to Greg DeViro to give me that kind of a breakdown.
Yeah, and because then it sounds like it's got a more of a chance to find the funding.
Well,
Right.
especially since this isn't, we don't have a final number yet, this is gonna go up.
Correct.
Everything's gonna go.
Everything, I
No,
mean,
I mean, the big pieces, the
we
big,
were really talking, the $10 million
that
basically
wasn't-
came at, we were sitting around the table on that meeting, and it's like, well, it didn't include this, and didn't include this, and didn't include that, and it's
Now we're up to
another
10 million.
a year or two down the line, and we said,
No.
you might as well just figure $10 million for
At least.
all your
That's valid.
calculations.
Because I don't know what
That's where the $10 million is.
I don't know what construction management is as a percentage of the cost of construction, but I don't know what the formula is that they use up here, but in the city it's a big number.
not as big as in the city, but it's, if 800 million is for design.
You're talking 10%.
Right.
10% for
For
construction.
CM, and then a percentage for DS, that they call
I
design
guess that's
services.
real money.
Shop
Yeah.
drawing uses
Oh, yeah.
additional.
Yeah,
You're talking $10 million.
Okay, that's real money.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is, absolutely.
I think one of the outcomes was, and this is where we kind of talked about, do we really go up the extra feet on the well house, was that
Right.
doing the dike, which is what we're kind of holding off, is really a bigger nut to crack than, I mean,
And if we don't think we're ever gonna do it, then
Then
why
why are we
spend the
spending-
extra $300,000 on the
but
other?
when it came down and says, well, out of a $10 million project, it's only $300,000, and then I only say throwing $300,000 around, but you really say, well,
It's all relative.
but then why not do it? Because you never know what might change down the road where
Yes.
doing the dike
Right.
might be more feasible than
Yeah,
not
that's
doing
right.
right now,
Yeah.
and then you gotta go raise it, so,
Who do we use for construction management? Is it a design company? Do they supply that?
Well, in our case, it would be the design company, that would be my recommendation. If you're the bigger, this is a big project dollar-wise, but it's not all that complicated, actually, what you're doing.
Right.
And so, something, a very big, really complicated project, you may want to think about having a different construction management, just to make sure that the design guys got it right.
Got it right, right.
And I think there, DEP in New York City, they do that as a matter of course. I think in our case, in this project, it would cost us more money, because when the construction manager says, well, we gotta do this, then you gotta have the designer approve it, so you're paying 2 engineers to do essentially the same thing. We've seen that on the filter plant project when we had that, and it cost us a lot more money. Then, because it wasn't an appropriate project to do that with.
I have
And there
some-
were other circumstances.
So I just have something to go over. Anybody else have any ideas? We have, for possibilities for funding
Uh-huh.
for this project, grants from our representatives, sale of any of the reservoirs. I don't know if that's probably a small pittance compared to what we're gonna do right now.
$2 million, I mean, it's.
Okay, it's not bad then.
It's
No, it's pretty
not
good.
insignificant.
Okay, and increasing water sales potentially somehow, and increasing rates. Anybody else have any ideas of other alternatives we could have for raising, funding this project?
No, in increasing rates, we can also, as Mel's plan, to kind of flatten that rate structure out, so that will also help, because it'll shift the burden, and we'll get more revenue down.
Well, if we can sell the reservoirs too, you should reduce your tax burden in Woodstock as an ongoing operating cost.
Correct, and the tax burden on those is minimal, but it's still $20,000 or $30,000 a year. It's not nothing.
Not,
Right. The mayor mentioned to me, he did have a meeting with the new Region 3 director at DEC, and she said they're busy, but it's still something they're interested in pursuing.
Okay.
what if we just put it on the market? Would developers be interested in these properties?
They might, the dam is a big problem, the dam at Reservoir too. And that's a stumbling block with the DEP. The DEP has to follow their own rules, the DEC rather, they have to follow their own rules. So they'd have to remediate the dam. Through this bond, we may have to get creative in how we get them to acquire the property. Reservoir One seems like a no-brainer, because the bond says they have to pay us fair market value at its highest and best, as developable. If they did that at Reservoir Two, they're also gonna have to put some money into taking that dam down, remediate. So maybe we have to get creative. The mayor and I talked about meeting with the supervisor in town of Woodstock, because Woodstock would really like the DEC to own that property, because it's right on their recreational site. So maybe we give them the reservoir. And, you know,
And they own the dam.
and maybe there's some horse trading.
And the liability.
And the liability. So maybe there's some real dollars and
Bill
cents.
has a view of this.
There's some real dollars and cents horse trading, and maybe we, you don't want to necessarily negotiate out loud, but I think there's ways that we just gotta get everybody together and get up there, and I know the mayor's willing, I just think he's kind of busy right now with other stuff.
We talked about spreading the news in Woodstock,
Yes.
Yeah,
that the city of Kingston, with the assistance of the Army Corps of Engineers, plans to take down that dam, to destroy the dam.
And what will happen?
They'll scream and yell, because they lose their
It's a
big
bad
D.
word.
They lose.
They lose their
a
swimming
swimming
hole.
hole,
Ah.
yeah.
Swimming hole only exists because the dam's there.
Well, we should take it down.
And what about, I know this is, Port Ewan had wanted to read that a while ago? remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, about a year ago
they
almost.
approached us about a year ago.
You haven't heard any more,
And
right?
how long would that take to actually,
To do what?
well, wouldn't we have to create a water district, or what were you talking about?
No, we would just
Was-
sell water to them
was-
like we sell to the town of
Okay,
Ulster.
okay,
But what we need to do is, we need the permanent connection, because right now,
so,
what they did, when there was an emergency several years ago, they just literally ran a temporary pipe across the old bridge,
Can't do
really?
that.
and they can't do that as a,
It's a weight line on
Permanent.
the bridge.
okay.
so,
And how-
the-
what would that cost?
you know,
It's
A
a
lot.
directional bore under the creek.
Yeah, okay.
It's not necessarily, it's not as expensive as you might think, but it's not cheap
Yeah.
either.
Sounds-
But
So that's nothing
would
that's
the new
going to
bridge
be,
hold it?
Nothing is cheap.
I don't think that the new bridge, I don't think hydraulically it works for either system.
Okay.
I don't think, but we could look at that.
Well, we haven't heard back from them at all, right? In regards to a continued interest?
No, but one of the things that we talked about was exploring how we would do this. Would we do this as an authority kind of thing? Would we do this just as a simple sale? And there is money available from the state to study just such a thing.
okay.
And so we would have to, it's through the Department of State, and they would give you up to $50,000 to do an engineering study to see, they look at all three systems and say what configuration makes the most sense and make a recommendation. And since of all the people at the table, I knew more about it than, I mean, she was brand new then, the supervisor, so I'm sure she's up to speed more now. But we just need to pursue that grant a little bit better.
Okay.
And I think that's our alternative, because you're gonna need engineering work done anyway.
Mhm.
I mean, their interest was predicated on the fact that they have to spend money on
Their treatment plan.
rehabbing their treatment plan, and so they're sitting there saying, well, do we spend the money on rehabbing the treatment plant, or do we take that money and, make a deal with City of Kingston for water and,
I think they should make a deal with us. I think our water's a lot better than
Wow.
theirs.
Oh, yeah.
You
They
know?
have a problem with it,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons.
Yeah,
They got the salt water line coming up.
right.
Doesn't come up that far.
Not yet. But it's
Kipsey,
moving.
right?
It's moving north.
around
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie or
Yeah.
something.
That,
It's called climate change. It used to never, you could always say with certainty, it never went any farther north than Newburgh.
mhm.
But now Poughkeepsie's really looking at it, because it comes up to,
Well, that's right, because Poughkeepsie pulls out there.
Poughkeepsie's a river plant. So they're looking at that, and it's
Wow.
moving a little bit with this
Mhm.
climate change that most people say doesn't exist. And, would it ever come up here? I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
So other than meeting with Cahill, setting something up there, what's the next markers here for Cooper Lake? We're waiting to hear back from,
I gotta get a list of our real costs for, give me an estimate of the real costs from him. And I'll have to talk to him a little bit more about how we break this up to do construction so that we could apply for the drinking water portion through EFC. Understand that that's gonna be a little more expensive to do that because of the way they gotta break the contracts apart, because of New York State law. But, and it's not inexpensive to comply with WBE and MWBE regulations, because you gotta give 40%, if you're a contractor, they want you to give 40% of your job away to minority and women, certified minority and women businesses. And so then you're putting 10% on top of that, because you're actually managing them.
40%.
Well, when I started, it was like 12 and 15.
I remember it being.
Now it's 30.
more than that.
And they're talking, the latest thing is that the people in Albany, they want to push it to 40.
But they're using subs anyway, so,
They are,
and they always use subs, and they always have a certain amount of management cost in using subs.
correct.
And so they're just saying that some of your subs have to meet these qualifications.
And if you are there are some general contractors who are better than others at managing the whole process. If you can demonstrate that I went to 4 of these subs and they are all more expensive than someone else that isn't in that category, then you can use the other person.
Right.
Because the idea is you're not supposed to increase the cost of the project.
I see.
But most of them, it's a knee-jerk reaction, and they don't even look at anybody else. They go, I'm gonna hire so-and-so because,
Unless they have a relationship with subs that they know are reliable and the price is good.
we actually found one guy we had, and not, he was fretting over the fact he couldn't find enough MWBEs. As it turned out, his lead abatement contractor that he'd been using for years was a WBE, he never knew it. And that was a big chunk of the project. So he had already met his goal and didn't know it. So it happens. And he was just using the best crews around. He just dealt with the foreman who he had no idea that the foreman's boss was a woman. So it all kind of worked out.
All right.
okay, so we're gonna wait, and hear back from them on.
I have to get a hold of
what
Greg
costs.
and kind of get the
But yeah, I
plus.
think we almost need to start looking at breaking that apart and
Okay,
looking at,
yep.
When do we have to start paying for this? Like, pretty much soon for some of the design stuff, right?
The design we've already got a bond for.
Okay.
And that money, we're already
Okay, that
paying,
was the last, yeah.
we're already paying that ban. I mean, that's coming,
$20,000.
yeah, $20,000.
Beginning of March, we'll be paying,
Right.
by the comptroller.
Okay.
payment for it.
So, and we have 5 years to roll that into, actually, you have to, once you get the design done, you have to start construction. If we don't do that, then we have to do that ban, that 800,000, as if it's gonna be done over 5 years, and that's a much bigger number than if we roll it into the total construction cost.
That's more like 200,000 next year.
Right.
and we were looking at the term of,
We did, and Matt actually pursued that, and yes, you can do a 30-year bond, but you can't sell them. So John said you're looking at a 20-year
It's
bond.
gonna be 20-year, about 4% conservatively.
okay.
You can do them, but nobody's
No
buying them.
one's gonna buy it?
No.
Okay.
I guess the return on the investment's too long. Or,
Well, interest rates are too low.
What is our time frame for coming up with, like, money, a lot, like the big chunk
To
of
figure
money
what
that
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
do?
need? Yes.
we need the costs, and then by the fall, I would say I have to go to the council to
Okay,
kind of get, so we have some time,
okay.
but we
But
can't.
not a lot.
But no, not a
No,
lot,
not a
to
lot.
figure all that out.
Okay.
And then if we just, once I get those figures from Greg, to get in line for the money from the state, there are deadlines there as well.
Okay.
So that, the 5-year
I gotta get on the
period,
IUP.
the 5-year period for the design works off of completed plans?
So you have to have your design done, and then you have to
If
go.
they delay in completing the design, does that push everything else back, or when does that?
I guess so. I mean, John wasn't.
And then what are we're paying, well, how do we,
We're paying $20,000 based on that $800,000 being amortized over 20 years.
okay,
If we do it as a standalone, then we gotta pay it off as a 5. The criteria is kind of a little bit loose, but it's basically, when he and I had the conversation, and I think Matt followed up just to make sure that, I wasn't missing something. When you go over, it's really our fiscal advisor, the city's fiscal advisor and the bond councils will kind of make this determination. If there's a big lag from when design is completed and when you start construction, you can't roll your design costs into your construction. So we planned on the design being a year. It looks like now it's gonna take almost 2 years. So that's just the complexity of the work. So but we're gonna have to start construction shortly after the design is ready to be able to roll it into the construction project. And the rule of thumb is if it's more than a year, you're gonna have to, and then that next year, you gotta make up all the
We're
interest
gonna
you
catch
should
up.
have paid,
We didn't pay this.
but you didn't. So there's gonna be a big penalty if we don't go right to construction.
Okay, I'm just
That's your
saying,
choice.
is there a benefit of holding off on the design even more,
To push it out.
to push everything out?
I mean, we can ask, but I don't think Greg would do that because I think he'd feel that it's a violation of his, standard of duty as a PE.
Well, the issue is paying for the
I
construction.
understand.
No, I mean, just trying to figure
Where to
all
go.
avenues here.
I know.
You know, it's, the money's not there, and we don't have to pay back, I don't wanna get caught in that, paying that $800,000 in 5 years versus paying it in 20,
No, I don't either.
so.
But I think, I think the DEC is gonna come down, once the design's done, I think we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess I got a different opinion about, worrying about DEC
Okay.
taking us to court. Sometimes you gotta create a crisis maybe to,
Get the money.
yeah. We can just continue rolling and doing everything the way they want, and our ratepayers take it on the chin because we're going after them. Well, I guess one thing at a time here, but the next thing is getting real cost, and maybe we need to set something up, a meeting with Kevin.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything from him on the roundabout letter, so, well,
Not yet, no.
yeah, that's why I asked it one out. Scada System?
They've begun, the CDM has begun the programming, so we're looking at screen designs and colors and, every 2 weeks we have a conference call instead of an face-to-face meeting. It's just cheaper and it's easier. And so, contractors got 4 shop drawings, he submitted 2. I think we're doing, the meeting from the county, they're blowing me off. I'm having a hard time, but I think now that this
It's gone, right?
Yeah, no, I just think everybody was on pins and needles not knowing what was gonna happen. I think I'll get that done. I think Tom and I, so they got a notice to proceed February 1st. And they should have, the end of July, they should have substantial completion, and the end of August, they should have final completion. So this is definitely gonna happen in this year. I was, and Tom was as well, always under the impression that we would buy the computers because we can get them cheaper through state contract. And other than those costs that have been identified for CDM to do the programming and the contract with the instrumentation provider, but at the first meeting, oh no, you have to pay for licensing on the software, and that's gonna be about $50,000 that we didn't know about. So Tom is looking into that, like why, because he was as surprised as I was at the meeting. Tom was like, wait a minute, you guys didn't tell me that. So we'll see how we can deal with that, but that was a much bigger number than I was expecting to hear. But the project is moving along.
With the expectation that it would be completed in August.
The final completion, substantial by July. PCS, the instrumentation contractor, is thinking it's gonna be done way sooner than that. And Tom's challenging them because I'm not quite sure they've identified an electrician yet. They have to have an electrician to do some of this work. And they're not giving that electrician enough time to, in their current schedule, to be able to do the work. So he's challenging them to go back and think about that schedule again. But that's we issued the contract, they signed it, that's the maximum time is August to have it done, August 30th.
If you want me to attend the meeting with the county, just let me know.
I will. I'm gonna try to meet with the guys in buildings and grounds. And if I've also been told that the new their director of public works is, I should just go with him, so I will. I got that advice from the health department.
Stay with the director of public works,
Yeah, he's,
as opposed to going to the administrator's office?
oh, I would never go there.
Okay.
I mean, I think everybody just wanted to make sure that somebody new wasn't coming in and the director of public works was not gonna be the director of public works anymore,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Well, it's probably important to strike now before January though.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Because in January,
It's all
there's
good.
gonna be a new exec and
Yeah.
then you could have a new.
No, I'll ask him for some dates again tomorrow. And I'll work through Shelley if I have to, at the health department.
Binnewater, UPS?
We should have had an answer for you by now, but we have a meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have all the principals up there, we have the guys from Mitsubishi, we have the electrician, we have the engineers, and to see what the problem is. The engineering firm is pretty confident that it's a program issue, that the switchgear is not talking to the UPS. And my position on that whole discussion is the switchgear's been there for 5 years, it's an existing condition. If it wasn't programmed right, you should have identified that. So fix it and let me know. Would you agree with that?
Agreed.
Yeah. So. And one of the delays was the engineering guy that owns the company, he had a cochlear implant done, so he was tied up for a while.
Transmission main rehab?
Went back to the DOT today. The DOH, Department of Health today. Went back to the Department of Health. The letter, Tom they made some changes, got all the things answered, and so we should be hearing.
How long do you think DOH will take their?
Shouldn't take long, because there were non-substantive issues, they just wanted this note changed on the plans and that note changed and whatever. I don't expect it to be long.
So, once they approve it, then the next,
Go to bid.
go to bid?
Go to bid, and, because this project absolutely has to be done before we ever put a shovel in the ground at Cooper Lake. If ever there was a legitimate reason to delay Cooper Lake, if these
Right.
projects cannot go on at the same
Well,
time.
that could be the reason why,
I'm
talk to
just-
CDM or the shovel.
I'm just saying, they can't happen at the same time, because they both involve two different aspects of our transmission ability, and Cooper Lake's gonna depend on making sure Binnewater is full and able to go, and if we're but if we're installing new transmission mains, I can't.
So when do you expect we'll go to bid on this project or send bids out?
A month, 6 weeks. We have to get permits, the approval from DEC.
Right away too.
In the easement.
Oh, the easement, and we haven't gotten a description yet, but we should have had that by now. But have you gotten the one from Chriselle? And you didn't call him and ask him? Okay. He'll move quicker for you than me.
It's okay. Well,
I'll call him too. Alright.
I know we had the meeting, right?
What?
We had the meeting with the property owner about doing the switch of the properties.
You did?
Did he? He was going to meet with him at the site.
Yes, he did.
That took place.
Yes, I did. And all the field work's been done.
Well, that's not.
I'm just waiting for the description. So that should be done. And the other surveyor who did the actual easement that we need, He told him we should have had that last week too, so we'll see. Everybody promises and nobody delivers.
Are you giving free water perpetuity for the easement?
No.
Just joking.
That's something the Kingston Water Department has never done.
Well, one of the things, going back to Cooper Lake, that we really talked about was how low we needed to go. And we come to that agreement of,
He hasn't pushed me for an answer, but I'm almost, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. The 10 feet is okay, as long as we have the connection with the Ashokian.
How long will it take, Judy?
How long will it take?
How long will it be low like that? How long do they need it low?
Hard to say.
What would you estimate? Month, weeks?
Year.
What?
A year?
the whole summer,
Yeah.
the whole construction,
construction.
2 months?
construction season.
No,
No,
more than
probably
that.
like 6 months,
More than that.
6 months.
you know, if they get in there in
And-
March or
And if we get a
April.
normal, if we have a normal amount of rainfall and we can hold it there, we're fine.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a drought year, I'm gonna lose weight rapidly. Okay, probably not a bad thing. I get stressed, I can't eat.
I said we all go to church every day.
Some people, when they get stressed, eat more.
I'm coming to your house, I'll empty your refrigerator for you.
No, I just, yeah, Debbie bemoans the fact that when we have a big break or something, she eats more, and I don't eat. So she gains the 10 pounds I lose, she gains it. She's like, damn, I wish you'd just stop that. So,
Meter replacement,
can we talk about that next month? I still haven't had time to,
have
nail.
they? have
No, I have not heard, Johnson Controls was gonna come back to me right after the new year.
Mhm.
Okay, now we're after the new year, we're into the next month, we're almost to March. I don't think I'm gonna hear from him, so I think we're just gonna
They're
forge
not
ahead.
interested anymore,
I think that playing with the probabilities and the numbers, I think the new guy that they brought on understands we're not buying that.
Yeah.
You gotta really show me how there's a payback.
Yeah.
So you gotta change the project. And I think he's willing to change the project, but they can't make enough money if they change the project.
You'll never hear about it.
So I think we're done with that, I mean, that's my sense, now if they
So
want.
we're still looking at what we're gonna do.
And I just
On our
need, I
own.
need to get a couple of people to give me some better numbers, to update their numbers that they gave me before. Other than that, I have everything.
Okay, next month.
I just, I just didn't want, I know I promised you last month, I just, things,
And Jane's been looking at
yes,
comparing, I mean, has she seen?
I can't stop her if I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, she
Driven,
hasn't.
she's very driven.
I mean,
No, and she's doing it for all the right reasons. I just can't, for the life of me, believe me, I would hear her jumping up and down if she saw something. I'd hear her upstairs. But I asked her, and no, there's nothing to blow us away.
the ones that we're only reporting at 8%,
Yeah.
and
And I did kind of a break-even analysis. For us to replace a 5/8 inch meter, I know the standard is, 100 plus or minus 1.5. And that's when they say they fail if they're below 98. It really, on a cost-benefit basis, it's gotta be below 90, gotta be like 89, 88%. For us, for the new revenue to offset the cost. And it's crazy. So.
Yeah.
And the guy, the new gentleman, their sales guy also knows that. So I was like, you can stop telling me this is the standard, because the standard doesn't make any sense. And it'll tell you that it doesn't, that's tied into the guarantee. So if your meter is a new meter and it tests below, then you get a new meter from the company. But if you're having to go out and replace it, anybody who has written any kind of peer-reviewed article about, meter change-outs, it's gotta make sense for your utility with your costs, that it's cost-effective for you to change that meter.
Yeah.
And for some utilities, it might be 70%. I mean, I find that hard, you never know. Sorry.
purchasing policy,
I sent that out quickly on whatever day it was I sent it out. Matt mailed it to me on Friday. So the first thing is just the updated purchasing policy. There's no substantive changes there. All I did was take out the titles we no longer have. Like every place it said administrative assistant, I put business manager. And every place that it said reservoir operator, I just crossed it out. So it just reflects our current title. The second piece is way more important. I've asked Bill and I've asked Mary Kimball, our longtime auditor, to help me with this. And none of us collectively have ever been able to tell me why we have to have a signed voucher from a vendor. And just about the time that Al left, I heard that the city stopped requiring it. But we were kind of in a little upheaval because Al had just left and the people were taking on. And so one of the first things I asked Matt to do was like, check this out. And he found out we don't need it either. So what he changed the voucher takes, there are just some people you can't get to sign a voucher. And so it delays payments, we're sending the meter readers out to get signatures at places of business, it's a pain in the neck. So Matt made up a purchase order that's really a purchase order and a voucher combined. So when you're doing the bills, you would see this in your packet instead of the purchase order. And,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that's all. And so I have a copy, we put in a copy of the current purchase order and the current voucher. We still use the current voucher for reimbursement of Part B for our retirees, which we're mandated to do. Those you'll see.
I was thinking about, I don't know if we even, because all they do is sign it, we fill it out, so even Jane or myself could do that for them.
Correct. Somehow we could do that and just pay them.
Yeah.
Right.
All they do
But
is sign it.
the city still uses their vouchers for some things, but they just stay in the office as a purchasing order. It's not a big deal.
So do we need to have that voucher for that purpose, or?
No, I
We do-
think we could just go with the purchasing
Purchase
order,
order.
right?
I mean,
Would
the
you
one
agree?
scenario I was thinking was when the guys downstairs buy their boots. I mean, rather than, because
They want reimbursement for the boots.
that's
Okay.
So you may,
maybe something like that, but.
we may use it on occasion, you may see it, but it's
Okay.
never, it's just gonna stay in the office and in-house, because
But this simplifies it a lot for you.
oh my God,
Yeah.
oh my God.
So much
Yeah.
paperwork. for me.
Kevin may come back to work up there, because that was his job, he was just like, oh.
No, but this makes a lot of sense.
For years, we couldn't accept an electronic signature or a fax to say we had to have an original signature. That was a real pain.
Yeah.
Now we can accept those. There's still, you can't get Lowe's to sign a voucher. You can't get
Lowe's,
Key Bank to sign a voucher.
Staples.
Yeah, you can't get any of those big box stores. This will just make it easier. So, Bill, I can't find any place in our minutes
Where you require one?
where we require one. So do we need a resolution, or would you recommend a resolution?
I would recommend a resolution, and you're gonna set limits, right?
In purchasing policy, there's two things. The purchasing policy already sets those limits.
I mean, there's certain ones you're gonna require, and others you're not. That's the way I'm understanding, right? So for an amount, you're gonna require a voucher?
No.
No, only for the boots.
They can file, yeah, no. Our procurement policy is, it really talks about when you need, who can buy what, and when you need out other approvals, and how many quotes you need. The vouchers, we're just gonna get rid of the voucher essentially, except for maybe one or two isolated circumstances.
That's-
And we're gonna use the purchase order.
The isolated circumstances. Is that based on a dollar amount? or-
No, it's a circumstance. It's,
Or it doesn't really make sense to have a PO. Like if you're buying,
guys buy boots. They pay $150 for their boots.
Okay,
They get reimbursed $135.
right.
They come in, they've already bought the boots, so it's not a purchasing order per se.
Perfect.
They're just gonna fill out a voucher, say, I bought the boots, here's the receipt, we staple the receipt to it, and we cut them a check for $135.
That's okay.
We're gonna use a voucher in that circumstance.
Okay.
Everything else, I think we're gonna use a PO for, the new purchase order.
Yeah, I would only think, the only reason you have the voucher is to assure that the money you're paying to the individual, they did provide or obtain that service. Like, for example, with the
Correct.
boots,
But the guy doesn't come in and say, I bought boots, and he did.
Oh, no,
You need
absolutely.
something to prove it.
That's correct.
So that's-
Yes.
I think it's fine. But I
But you're
think-
requiring receipts for purchase orders also.
Oh, God, yes.
Oh,
We already have that. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
receipt.
We're eliminating one piece of paper essentially, one signature from
Right.
the person billing us.
Because
But
this,
we already have the bill from them.
if Ryan or Matt buy something, their signature's gonna be here, and then I'm gonna sign it here, and when the board, the auditing committee looks at it, they're gonna see both signatures, and that's gonna say to you guys that that's a legitimate water department purpose. To actually cut that check, oh, believe me, you need a purchase order, you need the receipt. I mean, on breaks, I'm terrible. I'll go get coffee for everybody, and I'll have a receipt, and it's in my pocket or someplace. Jane's always, I need the receipt.
So the receipt will be attached to the
Yes.
purchasing
To
order,
this.
and it will have the two signatures. I think it saves a lot of time not having the other piece of paper.
So what do we need a motion?
Yes, I think you need a motion, a resolution for future boards, so they know in the future what you're doing and how it should be.
It would be helpful,
It would be nice.
because we spent a long time researching it to find that it's hard to research a negative.
But now you have something.
Okay, so, Bill, could you state what we need to have? Okay. Judy?
But he's the attorney.
Yeah, no, but-
The first resolution, I would like you to update, to approve the updated procurement and purchasing policy as submitted to you. That's the first resolution. The second one would be to approve the use of the amended purchasing order, which will eliminate the need for a voucher. Does that work?
Except in an unusual
Except
circumstance.
yes, except
Certain
in
defined circumstances.
certain defined circumstances.
I couldn't have said it better.
That's why he gets the big bucks.
So we need a motion for, the first motion is to approve the revised,
Yes.
Procurement purchasing policy.
yes, okay, I move.
I have a question, I guess,
Okay.
on that. Don't hand me another piece of paper because I'm gonna review
You're
it.
gonna read it.
Yeah. So purchases made during emergencies.
Yep.
Who declares emergency, and are there any standards that are used to?
That's an after hours, like a water main break. That's the only emergency we would have. Or something we need breaks and we gotta, do it. Does somebody declare an emergency officially? It's not like a declared emergency over there. It's like last night, it wasn't, well, maybe it's a bad example, but during snow removal in the middle of the night, or during a fire. It's
Yeah.
not a declared emergency. But if the chief's gotta go get a piece of equipment fixed, that's technically an emergency from a purchasing perspective. You can't go through all the hoops and motions to get all the approvals.
And
If you
I'm just
had a fire in this building, you had to board up the windows, that would be an emergency.
But, well, in that case, you'd still be able to follow these procedures, maybe. But, we're out on a break, and the trash pump dies, and the hole's filling up with water. Well, somebody's gonna run to Herzog's and get a new one. And we're not gonna get three prices. I'm not gonna check the internet to see if I can get it cheaper from Granger. I'm just gonna go down there and buy it. Or I'm gonna go to Lowe's and buy it. That's kind of my emergency. We don't have them very often. We really don't.
I'm just, I guess playing devil's advocate about who declares an emergency, because it's in there, and.
I think the superintendent
The
is.
superintendent will be.
That's who always does it. I mean, it's not
Okay,
like
well,
the
that's what I'm
mayor.
looking for, is I don't want some third line employee to sit there and,
Oh, no,
Why don't you just say it's an emergency as,
as declared by the superintendent?
that's fine. That's
Okay,
fine.
that's
We can do that.
that's all I'm looking to do, is
That's fine.
identify who that person is that declares the and if it's a superintendent,
I know, and the truth is, Ryan would always call me anyway.
okay. So, I don't know if you need to put that in there
And if the
someplace.
superintendent is not available,
It would be the next level management, so it could be Matt if it had to do with the office. If I was on vacation and something happened and you couldn't get the bills done, you needed a new printer, he's just gonna go get one.
so then, or the next level of management.
Yeah, okay. Yep, and I'll amend that.
Okay. Okay.
We have a motion
Right,
As amended.
as amended
okay,
to accept the procurement and purchasing policy
thank you.
as presented.
Yes.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
But I missed first.
Harold was the motion.
And this is something that our auditors look to see if we follow.
Okay.
We really do, make sure.
It's an easy thing for them to look to see that it follows.
Yeah, there's something to.
Exactly. A lot of the stuff they had, they just say.
Any other?
So do we need another motion?
Well, we need to vote on that first, one at a first. So is there any other questions on that? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's carried.
Now we need a motion to approve the new purchasing order and in lieu of the voucher except in extenuating circumstances. Is that right?
That's pretty good. You must be a lawyer.
As a matter of fact,
One
I think he might be.
At one point, Bill. Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll
Okay,
second it.
okay, our first, second, any other discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay,
That's three.
so now we're going back to the roundabout.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and Matt, jump in here. We all know, when I went to the Common Council, I asked him for a $1.5 million bond
Right.
for the roundabout. At that point, we thought our costs were gonna be 1.1, because that was the estimate DOT had given us. Then we worked with Bernier Larios, and we got them down to the 571,000. We actually got the 1.5 million. Now we have to make a ban payment. I would like to use some of that money that we're never gonna use to pay that back. So we have $800,000. We've already spent 800 about, in round numbers, Matt?
We've spent 650. We have 858 remaining of the 1.5.
Right, and I have consulted with Dennis Larios and John Davidson and his office, who've been doing this with DOT. And we are all in agreement that we paid them $571,000. And we know the project, that's maybe too low, but we figured we should be around 750 with change orders that we're gonna encounter. So I would like to give, of that 800,000 that we have left over, that's still sitting there, I'd like to hang on to 400,000 of it, because if we spend 250, I'd like to have a little bit of a cushion. But if DOT's designs are 500,000, their estimate, and that's not their estimate, that's the bid, that's what the bid came in at, is 571. If we go over by almost double, somebody needs to be hung and quartered, because that's unconscionable. But next year when we make the payment, we'll have a better idea. I'd just like to keep 400 of it, instead of taking $37,000 as that bond payment out of our coffers. I'd just like to be given $400,000 to make that ban payment. And John Julie thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's going to be unexpended proceeds. We're
Right.
paying interest on.
So that 400,000 just
Goes back.
goes back to them.
And that's our payment.
It's our payment. We had
What does that reduce your
37,500.
costs by?
Next year, that would reduce the amount that we have, our ban payment
Right.
by that amount. Instead of paying on 1.5, we're gonna pay on 800,000.
And
Okay.
the interest will be, because of principal is high.
Right, so.
Now the bonds have been sold already?
These are bans, no, they haven't. We can do bans for 5 years, then you gotta roll them into a
A bond, okay.
But John is pretty, he'll look at the interest rates, he'll do them a couple of times a year. And if you're actually done with that ban, he'll roll it into one of his bonds. I mean, he always consults with us.
Okay,
It's just more cost effective for you.
okay.
So we a motion for that then?
When are they gonna be finished with the work that pertains to us?
The end of next year.
Well, have they even gone to contract yet?
Yes, they have. The gentleman, I wasn't here, Matt was here, he came in, he dropped plans off that are that thick. And I have to call him, I haven't,
So they'll be finished with the whole project by when?
2 years.
2 years.
It's gonna start this year.
He said when he was here, he was talking to Ryan, but the trees have to come down by the end of March, so at least that part,
Yeah, they're gonna start.
because of the.
They did a lot of work already, I mean.
Well, Central
that was
Hudson
all-
did. That was all Central Hudson,
That's all
That was
Central
Central-
Hudson.
that was all
That
Central
Only
Hudson.
Central Hudson replacing their gas mains
ahead of
in
time.
the same area ahead of time.
No,
No,
that
we-
meant we're gonna have to change some of our locations because they've already taken our spot, but that's okay.
Okay.
But
So when do they
it's a
actually go to
minor.
contract?
Huh.
Is there a date?
They might, but I mean, they have, this was, the gentleman was the general contractor who came, I have his card, and tomorrow I intend to call him back. The day of the board meeting is just not a good day for me to do that.
Okay.
And he wants to meet with us ahead of time. He sounds, based on the conversation that he and Matt and Ryan had, Ryan happened to be in here, he sounds like he's trying to tick all the boxes and do it the right way.
Do we need a resolution to prepay, to make a prepayment?
We already paid.
Yeah, we gave them the 571 already.
Okay, so we don't need a resolution to prepay?
No,
Okay,
no, I just want, if somebody said, no, hang on to all of it, I just wanted to make everybody aware of what we're doing.
okay.
I know the original schedule for that showed that they weren't gonna do any of our work
Till the end.
till the end. They were gonna start it on the fall of 2019, and they were to complete our work in the fall of 2020.
Okay.
Now, I'll also tell you that that's DOT's projection of the schedule, but the contractor, you can't tell the contractor's means and methods most of the time. So the contractor may decide he's gonna do all our work first, because he's down that deep and that's how he wants to do it. So I'm interested to talk to him, and I will do that. So
Who got the contract?
it's a company I've never heard of. What I've understood from my conversations, I went to a Water Utility Council meeting and a AWWA meeting last Thursday and Friday, and that's, I think, the days he was in here when I was not here. A couple interesting things happened when I was at that meeting. I was talking to a couple of my counterparts on Long Island, and one, he was bemoaning the fact that, the gas utility down on Long Island is driving him crazy, because he's always ripping stuff up, and, He said, thank God for DOT. He said, every time they do a road replacement in Long Island, and this guy is the Suffolk County Water Authority, the largest groundwater utility in the nation, and miles and miles of pipe. He said, DOT always rebuilds the road and they replace water and sewer. I said, what did you say? Say that again. Yeah. So, the conversation, this was at lunchtime, the conversation kind of spread, and it seems that the regional offices determined, they were not allowed to pay for betterments, but what constitutes a betterment is determined regionally.
Did anybody else in the state have
Yeah,
a similar situation?
yeah, in the western part of the state, most of their stuff gets done too. And it just seems to be sporadic. So I want to pursue that, I just don't know who to talk to, because it just seems like, that someone determined this was a betterment, but if we were down in Patchogue, it would be part of the contract.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to find an answer. Dennis and I were talking about that before.
Okay. Keep us posted.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
an interesting conversation.
Wow.
Betterment sounds like a judgment call, doesn't
No,
it?
it does, but the question you asked was, DOT generally hires these big road companies to do these things that I would certainly not be. Then they generally, to do the water and sewer, they hire a water and sewer sub that does that. So this gentleman probably, he was asking Ron all kinds of questions about how we do valve insertions and things like that. It's just not his bailiwick. They know they're gonna hire a sub
Okay. Because I know what the original schedule called for valve insertions
by us.
by us at
Right,
the
so
very beginning.
I wanna talk to him about that, because once Central Hudson got out there, I knew we couldn't be out there, because I didn't know where to put the valves.
I wonder if the betterment has to do with age, and that's what they're looking at, because it's such an old city. And down in Long Island, I mean, it's so much newer.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
maybe find out, that's,
I can ask.
I'm just wondering if that's what they go by when they decide
Joe was telling me
where they're
that it's
replacing.
because when you go down 2 feet to do the road,
Mhm.
the stuff that's 4 feet down breaks afterward, and they're just like, let's just do it while we're here,
Yeah.
because then you're gonna go back and redig our roads.
Mhm.
I don't know, there might be more to what he's letting on, so it's something that we need to pursue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you give me that, I should also mention that I sent the letter
Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
to,
and you need a copy of it.
yeah, well, you might as well share a copy.
I will share it with everybody.
With everyone.
Dennis wrote a letter to the governor and to the head of the DOT, or the comptroller, asking, well, they only went out late last week, so Kevin may not have had time to actually even see that. I don't know how it goes through. Just complaining about that very fact, that we have to prepay the money.
And have to pay interest on
Money.
that money where we're not even gonna see anything for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just one of those things that could
Yeah.
bothering me for, ever since this whole thing started a year or more ago.
There's also the issue of one municipality, water department, it gets paid for by the state, and then you have another